Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 22nd of May 2020. Today we are going to discuss currency strength in the form of the currency strength histogram. I'm going to show you some of the features that I am just finishing up and which should be rolled out sometime next week. So if we have a quick look, first of all, the currency strength is down here running at the bottom of the screen, and it looks like the normal version until we have a gander in the settings. And here you can see that there are a few additional settings in this version, which will be the new version before long, the new release version. And I have decided to remove the Scandinavian pairs, so the Norwegian krona, the Swedish krona, and the Danish krona, and I have added something else called user. Okay, and these are the user defined symbols that the user of the software can add. Okay, so if you look up here, you might say that, okay, well actually I want to re-enable the Swedish krona and the Danish krona and the Norwegian krona, but I'd also like to add gold and silver. Okay, so I'm going to put these on XAG. I think those are correct. We'll have a look in just a second. I'm going to press OK. I'm going to roll down just to make sure I got those symbols correctly. XAG, XAU, yes. Okay, so now, previously, if I was to look at the euro, Swedish krona, there would be no chart. But now, when I drag it over, the software will grab a hold of it, and it'll identify the fact that there is a Swedish krona attached to it, and it'll add the Swedish krona to the chart, and it'll highlight it with the same color as this one here. Okay, so you can always see which one is user defined simply by the color of it. And so we also have the Norwegian krona and the Swedish krona, and note here that they'll both be blue because they are both user defined. So we'll go like that. It doesn't mean that you can't use them based on the color. It just means that you have to pay attention to what's going on. And you can see here, yeah, we do have these two currencies. They're both user defined and they're the same color, but it doesn't change anything because here you can just focus on the histogram. Okay, you can see here that we're above, so we have the Norwegian krona is the top line and the Swedish krona is the bottom line. So it's still very easy to do. Okay, and so if we go here to the British pound, Swedish krona, just one last example before we get to the precious metals, you'll see red and aqua colored. You can see just here. Okay, so if we go here now to the to silver versus the euro, I can drag that onto the chart like so, and you'll see that silver will also have this aqua color. You can see just here. Okay, so this is super interesting and a nice addition, I think, to the software. And note here that the euro line looks really flat on this chart in contrast to this chart, the Euro USD. Okay, I'm going to drag this one over. I'll drag this one over. And notice that the blue line here looks way more squiggly than it does here. As you can see, this is the blue line is up here on the Euro American dollar. But on the silver Euro, note that the line goes a little flat. Despite that fact, the values of the Euro line are identical, okay, on both pairs. It's just that the value of silver relative to the euro is kind of squashing that euro line a little bit, okay? But the values are the same. They're absolutely identical. And here it's important to focus on the histogram. So what you can do here is, well, you can, if you don't want to see that, you only want to see the difference in the currency, in these two symbols, then you can simply disable the line by setting this to false. Set this to false, go like that, then those lines will disappear, and now you can see the good stuff. So if you were to go back to, for example, two user-defined symbols like the Norwegian krona and the Swedish krona, then you'll only see the histogram. So if there's any confusion regarding which line represents which symbol, well, that is removed when you look at this. Okay, so that's a really lovely feature that I like a lot. So that's cool. I'm just going to remove those because we don't need those in here just now. Now we are going to focus on the alarms because I've updated a lot of the functionality in the alarms. And this is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. And the reason I think it's great is because now we have the possibility to scan all symbols on all time frames. Okay, and so, I mean, that should make some of you think about, wow, what about historical data? And that's a very good comment. And this is important because it requires that you have downloaded symbol values for all of these symbols. Okay, so if you want to scan all of these currencies here, from the euro down to the Singaporean dollar, and you want to scan all time frames, well, then you have to make sure that you have ample historical data. And you can do this by going through each of these symbols one by one. So if you drag this and you go to this symbol, and then you just start on the 1 minute chart, and you work your way through all the symbols on every time frame, like so. It only takes about 10 minutes to go through every single one of them, so it's not a very long-winded exercise. But when this is done, well, then you will have all the data that you need. And if you wish to do this in a slightly different way, you can go to the History Center, which is just here under Tools. You can go to History Center, and here you can download the symbols that you wish to download. So if you go, okay, I want to make sure that I have these. You can see here we don't have 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, or monthly. Then you can just double click that, and then press download, and that will force the download of the historical data. But I think you'll find that on the monthly chart we are missing some historical data. So if you go to the exotics and you go to the monthly chart, you'll probably find that they're only going to give you about 90 months of historical data. And according to the histogram, if we're looking at a look back of 50, I mean, we're not going to have ample data. So what I've done in the software is I've programmed it to use as much data that is provided and calculate these values correctly. So assuming that we want to use a look back of 50, and let's say that we only have 100 periods, for the 100th period there is not going to be the 50 periods previous required to calculate that. And so I've made it so that it'll do as good as it can. And so if we go here, we go on the monthly chart, and we click on this button here, we can have a look. You can see that it's telling us not enough Australian dollar monthly data, doing my best with only 265 bars. So here we have a little bit more data, but if we go to, for example, the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, maybe we're going to have a little bit less because this is slightly more exotic. Okay, we do have a little bit more there. Let's have a look at something really exotic. Let's say the Singaporean dollar, Japanese yen. Maybe we're going to have a little bit less. And here we only have 127. Okay, so that's not a whole lot, and so the software is going to do as good as it can. And we're still getting some accurate currency straight readings, but we're only looking back 127 periods. Okay, so it's just nice to be aware of that. And if you're wondering if there is enough data, just keep your eye on the Experts tab down here in the terminal window, and it'll tell you. Okay, if you go to the weekly, we're probably not going to get any errors. You can see there are no errors, so we have sufficient data in order to calculate the currency strength data, the histogram for the Singaporean dollar and the Japanese yen on all time frames except for the monthly. Okay, so that's nice. That's very nice indeed. Okay, so we have another feature, and this is what I just touched upon recently, but going into more detail, is we have the alarms, and we have a new feature here, which is scan all time frames. I have removed the setting scan current symbol because we don't need this, because the current symbol is obviously going to be scanned when we're scanning all of them. And so I just thought it was a overflow, and I've simply removed that. Okay, so now we can go, okay, we want to enable alarm for all symbols. So if I set this to true, the software will now look on the current period, which is the weekly chart, according to these settings here. Let's just put this a little bit lower, and it's going to look for currency strength divergence on the weekly time frame for all symbols here. So I'm just going to press OK, and it's going to do a bit of number crunching, and we may or may not get some hits. No, we didn't get any hits there. But what we can do is we can say, okay, I want to scan every symbol on every time frame. Okay, and this is again going back to my previous comment and illustration regarding historical data. It requires that we have historical data, otherwise you'll get inaccurate readings. Okay, so I'm just going to say okay. This is going to take a little bit longer. Okay, so we'll time this. Okay, so let's see how long this takes. It probably should take about 10 or 15 seconds. It's doing a lot of number crunching. So waiting. We're up at about 15 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay, so we got some hits. It took about 1 minute and 50 seconds, so it took a while to do, but it's also doing a lot of crunching. So if we have a look here, we have Singaporean dollar, Japanese yen, 1 minute. This is negative. I'll make this a little bit clearer. This is just for me at the moment, but what this means is essentially that when we have a negative variant, it means that we are looking to buy, and when we have a positive variant, it means that we are looking to sell. Okay, so we have the euro, Swiss franc. That's positive, so maybe we could look to sell, but we know that this would not be a good idea fundamentally because the Swiss National Bank just intervened. Okay, we have the euro, Australian dollar. On the 1 minute we have a positive, so on the 1 minute chart this could be looking to move lower. Okay, so we do have quite a lot of information here. We have monthly data, 1 minute data, 15-minute data, 4-hour data, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of things that we can, let me turn this off so we don't do it again, that we could have a look at. So we can go and have a look at what this means. So let's have a look at the Singaporean dollar, Japanese yen, which is what we're currently on, and this is on the 5 minutes. Let's have a look at the 5 minute, and we should be getting pretty close to the negative one here. Yes, we're getting really close to this. It's because I put it back on 2. We're probably poking into that because the scan was run on 2. Yes, and you see we're looking at a very negative variant, so maybe we should consider to look to buy. Okay, and so price poked into that on the low of this candle here, and now we're starting to move higher. We have a look at a 1 minute example. This is the Kiwi American dollar. Let's have a look at that wherever you are. Kiwi American dollar. We'll have a look on the 1 minute chart, and this is negative again, so we're looking to move higher. You see we poked through that, and we poked through that at 5 minute and 1 minute demand. Okay, so price poked through there, and now we're moving away. Okay, let's have a look at a monthly one, the Kiwi Swiss franc. Where are you, Kiwi Swiss franc? There we are. And this is on the monthly chart. So let's get that pair on there and go to the monthly chart. And you can see that we're extremely negative. So we have moved into extremely negative variant territory. Okay, and so we can expect the price is going to slowly drift away. And this would have been more interesting to buy at the lows. Okay, so we would have been alerted to this on this kind of this push lower here, first time, second time here on this push lower, and the first time kind of around here when we started to move down, and price poked really deeply into this overextended area. And also note that on the monthly chart we have limited data to work with. So if we look for the Kiwi Swiss franc on the monthly data, we only have 260 bars. Okay, so we don't have ample data, so we're making do with the historical data that we have, which is not enough. Okay, but it's will bring this to our attention anyway. We're not producing any errors, and if you look down, we seem to have enough data with everything else. Singapore and Japanese yen, we have issues. Yeah, so this was the only one that we had troubles with. So that's pretty interesting, I think. So this is kind of the major update that's coming to the software, and I'll be releasing this pretty soon. An addition to this as well is that we have now the alarm interval is set to 1 hour, and this means that if we put this on 1 minute, it means that the algo will run every minute. If we put it on the current chart, it will run at an interval equivalent to the currently active chart. If we put it on 1 hour, which is the default, it'll run the algo every hour. Okay, so you can put it on anything, and you can say, okay, well, I want it to run every, let's say, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and I want it to scan everything. And then we'll get a pop-up window like the one we saw every 15 minutes if we have currency strength that is reaching positive or negative variance. Okay, and then we also have this one here. This is the crossover, and if you set this to true, like so, well, then it is going to scan all currencies and look for a crossover, and the crossover is where we have the negative line, and we have the negative histogram, and it goes positive. At the point it goes positive, we are going to be alerted. Okay, and if this is set to false, it's only going to look at the time frame specified by the currently active chart, which is currently the monthly. If you set this to true, it'll scan all symbols on all time frames, and it'll notify us of crossovers that are occurring. Okay, and that's that. Apart from that, the software is still the same. There have been some optimizations that I have performed on the software as well, so things are running slightly faster. I don't think if you'll notice these improvements, but clock cycles have gone down for each iteration of the algorithm. So that's a win for me, and I like when we have small optimizations going on. But that's what we can look forward to here in the relative near future. Okay, but if you have any questions about this, please post them in the video comments below or on the Discord channel, and I will get back to you. And you can expect this update to be released within the next week or so. Okay, thank you.